Hello, family members. Hope you're having a nice day today. I'm sitting here with my Casey Bear and thinking about the history of YouTube and YouTube culture. Now, obviously, YouTube is a tool, not a genre or anything like that. And so it's as broad as it can possibly be. I mean, there's as many different corners of YouTube as there are audiences that are willing to engage or creators that are willing to create, And so that means that there are large swaths of the YouTube community that basically never overlap with each other. There's things that they watch on YouTube that you would never even think about watching, and vice versa. And so I think it's kind of interesting because I think that can kind of work to obscure the history of YouTube and how different YouTube creators influence each other and influence culture and influence the conversations that people have. The truth of the matter is that there's a lot of aspects of YouTube culture that I still don't understand, I've talked somewhat about this in some of my recent videos about different videos I've watched, but, there are apparently very famous creators I had no idea who they were, for the longest time. No idea who the angry video game nerd was or whatever. And apparently he was very well known. And so even somebody who clearly was extremely influential and well known and successful in, from the early YouTube days doesn't necessarily get any sort of like traction in mainstream culture. And that's certainly true with other big YouTube creators. They could have hundreds of millions of views on their videos and be massively famous within their own sphere and basically unheard of outside of it. And so I think that it's kind of interesting how we don't really see all these different aspects. And then the other thing I find rather interesting is, the language of YouTube. And I find, especially with like left-leaning YouTubers, it's a lot about nuance. YouTube used to be shorter videos, but now long videos do well. And so a lot of the best channels are the ones that provide almost granular details on things. There's a couple of channels that I watch, like What's Going On with Shipping Today, I believe is the name of the channel. I'll get the link and I'll put it in the description. I started watching it after the Ocean Gate thing because, here's somebody who actually like knows what they're talking about, giving a lot of detail on the subject. And then when the bridge collapsed in Baltimore, that channel was a good reference for me again. I wouldn't have necessarily expected to have ever watched a channel like that, but here it was, more than once. They've been sort of my go-to for information on, or one of my go-tos for information on massively important current events, or at least massively discussed current events. So it's I think an amazing thing that a channel like that can exist, find an audience, and probably he gets a lot more views when there's pop culture relevance to the topics at hand, but still is able to maintain a good audience in between. I mean, that's pretty great, you know. There's a YouTuber I like, Noah Samson, and oh, he's such a cutie patootie. I just want to like pinch his little cheeks. He's adorable. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I'm such an auntie. It's like ridiculous, but he was talking about why he doesn't want to like go on right wing debate bro type YouTube channels and debate them, because he's not a debater. That's just not what he does. You know, he's a video essayist and a commentary kind of guy. He's not the kind of guy who, you know, basically does like argumentative improv, you know. And I mean, there's definitely room for debate in YouTube culture, but I find that, you know, debate really is about a performance. I think that's something we kind of forget. Like, when you think about debate, in a debate, a formal debate, you would have two teams with different sides. And the people who are arguing those two sides don't have to agree with what they're arguing. That's not the point of the debate. They're supposed to be like trying to make the best points they can and follow these, you know, like specific rules and, you know, traditions and whatnot. And so, like, debate is not about taking an idea that is true and explaining why it's true. It's taking an idea that you would like other people to believe and making an argument to support that idea. And there's a Neil deGrasse Tyson quote I'm going to paraphrase here. Just because something is true does not mean it's accurate. Or, sorry, just because something makes sense does not mean it's accurate. There you go. Goodness, that made a lot more sense, didn't it, Casey? Anyway. But just because someone can make a cogent argument that something is the way it is, that doesn't mean that that argument is right. And the fact of the matter is, if something is right, you can usually prove it's right in a multitude of ways, because it's right in all directions, you know? If I wanted to prove a direction is north, there's a lot of ways to do that. You know, I could use a compass, I could use a GPS, I could use, you know, different constellations or geographic features, or, you know, things like the moss on the side of the tree or something like that. There'll be a lot of different ways that you can come to the same conclusion, because it's a fact, it's reality. Reality is something that should be reproducible to all people. And so just because someone can make a really good argument for something doesn't mean that their argument is valid. And that's why I think the nuance that YouTube allows us to have is so important. It allows us to make a statement and then support that statement fully. You know, use citations, external links. You know, you can have people in your videos that are experts and do a little interview with them. I see that, you know, fairly frequently. You know, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that YouTube allows us to make that nuanced argument that you might not necessarily get, or that deep dive into something that you might not get in any other medium. And I think that it's unfortunate that, because YouTube is something that people associate with the internet, which is kind of weird, because like there's so many businesses that are, you know, internet based in a lot of ways these days. I mean, like, look at McDonald's, for example. They always want you to download their app and blah, 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 blah. like you interface with that business. A lot of people interface with that business in a lot of ways, primarily through the internet, and yet we don't necessarily think of that as an internet business. When I order from Walmart, I use their delivery service. So I literally am doing everything, all of my contact through Walmart until I get the groceries in my hand is through the internet, But I don't think of Walmart as an internet company, but we do think of YouTube as an internet company. And I think that allows us to dismiss the importance of what happens on here. Even relatively small channels can have impact if people talk about them, or if somebody watches them and is influenced by them and then passes on that idea, and it snowballs and blah 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 blah. Like, ignoring the fact that YouTube is culturally relevant is just a very strange habit that we have. And the fact of the matter is we're going to lose a lot of our internet culture and our YouTube culture. People delete things. Things aren't documented. Nobody really takes the time to explain these things. Like, to this day, I still am like, I have no idea what the heck happened during Gamergate. I don't. Like, I kind of have some vague specifics, but anytime that I even try to watch anything that explains it to me, they expect you to already know so much, because most of their viewers will already know so much about a particular topic. And so they assume that you're going to have a certain base of knowledge and just start from there. And that's why it's important that the history of things is documented, because people just assume that you'll know, and that's not necessarily always the case. Well, anyway, I think Casey would like me to cuddle him some more. He's being a good boy, aren't you, buddy? Want to say hi to the nice peoples? Oh, yes, she does. Oh, don't you give me that little murmur, little murmur. Don't you give me that little murmur, little murmur. Sorry, I had to play with my baby. I love him. Well, I'll let you go, family members. I hope you have a lovely day, and I'll talk to you some other time.